Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Craig Hansen. I'm the founder and the president of the University of Applied Research and Development, and it is our privilege and our honor to have Professor Jennifer and Program Assistant Va with us from Cambodia. Hi, Professor Jennifer.
Hello, how are you today?
Great to have you here. Why don't you introduce yourself and the program that you're leading, and also introduce Va for us?
Wonderful. So my name is Jennifer McMahon, but I'm called Professor Jennifer. And just over the last year, we've had the wonderful opportunity to create a bachelor's program. Right now, we have a Cambodian cohort, and our bachelor's program is focused on education. It's a bachelor's of science in education, but with a really clear focus on working with in environments that are limited resource communities. That's our main goal. And then also we have kind of put together some really unique pieces to this program. In particular, we have a really strong research thread, and we are also focusing on social emotional learning and mental health awareness as a part of this. And our goal is really to co-create new knowledge. So there's a lot of information out there about best practices, but much of that research has been done in Western societies. And so our goal is to take that research, apply it in the Cambodian context and in limited resource contexts, and then kind of be able to inform others about best practices within those limited resource contexts. So I'm really happy to introduce you to our program assistant, Ton Va. So Va is a participant facilitator. So he is both a student and a facilitator within our program. And he is such an amazing help because as we are presenting information in English, sometimes our students have questions and they need to have some additional further discussion. And so he is right there to support them and answer those questions. So welcome to Teacher Va and Program Assistant Va today as well.
Great to have you with us, Va. It's good to have you here. I understand that you've known Professor Jennifer for quite some time. So, Jen, why don't you tell us about your experiences in Cambodia? Because I know you have a long history there, and that's really been the birthing ground for what you're doing now with this new initiative.
Yeah, so really it all started, actually, I was at a dream workshop. And at this workshop, we were talking about how do you take your dreams and make them into goals? And at that point, I had been in contact with some people in Cambodia. We've just kind of been talking about education in Cambodia in general. And my dream was, how about the idea of creating kind of my big picture goal was a teacher leader academy with like a lab school. And I really wanted it to be able to be like a credit bearing experience where people from all over the world could come and learn about best practices within these limited resource contexts. And so it was a really crazy goal and a crazy dream. But then we ended up over time creating this idea, first of all, a teacher institute. And this is where Teacher Va was so helpful because he attended that and then also helped translate for it. And then from there, we created a teacher leader academy, and he also was a part of that and helped with the translation piece. And these were both virtual experiences. And then in November of 2019, I had the opportunity to go to Cambodia and have a teacher leader academy in person. And so over that amount of time, Teacher Va and I had been communicating quite a bit. We'd done a lot of video coaching and experiences virtually. And so when I was able to be there and meet in person, he took me to his school. I got to meet his family. And my husband and I were able to go out and meet his family and see his mom and his dad and his sister and brothers. And it was just an amazing experience. So, so through that partnership, we have been able to work cooperatively together to really develop this bachelor's program over time. And I've just really greatly benefited from kind of his cultural expertise, as well as he's currently a student in a master's program And so he's finishing up his master's degree, but despite having that master's degree, he still wanted to be a part of this program. And I just really appreciate that.
Fantastic. Val, I'd love to hear from your perspective how the program is going so far.
Thank you, Doctor. So it's not far different from what Professor Jennifer mentioned. It's now that we are doing the dream coach. So it's with the course to it about the lifelong learning. It's very interesting for me because in Cambodia we just learn something without practicing. But with this course we practice a lot, especially about how to manage stress or dealing with some stress, and we practice that in class even though we're doing it virtually, but it's still helpful. So yes, now we are in the lifelong learning course, which is the second course for our program.
Do you want to talk for just a second about the course before, the Education and Society class?
Yes, the course before, it's about the Education and Society class. It was really interesting as well because I learned about photo voice, which is really useful for us. I mean, for Cambodian students, but we were very interested in it because we use the photo voice for finding the challenges and assets in the community. For me, because I just started working in a new communities in another province, which is very far from my hometown, but I still be able to complete that assignment. Before completing the assignment, it was about a little bit nervous because it's a really new place for me. But as a Professor Jennifer, she mentioned about how to do it clearly, and because we get really clear guidelines, and then I followed that, and after that, we completed, successfully. So that really amazing. I love it.
Va, I do want to commend you for your commitment to make this happen, not just for you, but for all the other teaching professionals in Cambodia, and making this opportunity happen. This kind of activity that Professor Jennifer is leading wouldn't happen without you being there to support her, to encourage her, to help translate, to support the students, and to be a really good role model of your commitment and your interest in education and making a difference in the lives of the children, and not just the children, because it changes the lives of the families as well. So I really want to commend you for your part that you're playing in this program.
Thank you, Doctor.
Jennifer, when you were telling me last week about the successes and the excitement and all the different activities, I just wanted to sit there and listen for a long time. And being from New Zealand, living in Indonesia as I did for 7 years, and being from a first world country, a developed nation, thinking about and hearing about and imagining in my mind the experiences in the program just in these last few months. I'd love for you to just share for everybody so they can picture in their mind what you've gone through and what the students have gone through, because I just became so excited listening to you and hearing your passion for the program, even at this early stage. Why don't you tell us about it, how it's gone from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, just from the very first course. So actually from the very first convocation experience. So we wanted to really help make sure that this was a really special experience for all students, that they had the sense of kind of that pomp and circumstance that we get when we enter higher education. And so we began with a convocation ceremony. I wore my regalia. We had, speeches, and we had professors share words of welcome, and we introduced each of the students. And I think that just kind of beginning that way was really special. And then from there, we went into our first course. So the whole scope and sequence for our program is aligned with those UK teaching qualifications. And we had, really clear guidelines around what we wanted to include, but then we were also able to expand upon that and make sure that it's really relevant to the students in this course. And that's really important to me. And so in Education and Society, we began with the idea of understanding what is a community and what is a society. And we talked a lot about the impact of community on education and education on community. And so for our Cambodian students, we started by really trying to understand from the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, what they saw as their challenges and assets within their education system. And we wanted that to kind of be our framework. And then from there, we had students who really would dig into our research thread of in two particular areas. We worked on interviewing, and we also focused on the qualitative research method of photo voice. And so both of these were amazing experiences for them. We went through a process of teaching them how to do coding and how to write their findings, but it was in a really bite-sized, really not scary introduction to research, because that was the goal. We want them to make sure that they understand that that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. We can do this in little pieces and that it's meaningful for them. And so then we had the idea of this community community map. And so the idea is that we wanted them to understand who are the stakeholders, what are the assets in the community, and then what are some of the challenges in the community, and then compare those to the Ministry of Education Youth Sport challenges as well. So everything was kind of framed nicely that way. So they each investigated their own community. They did interviews. They were able to pull all of that information together. And then when they identified local challenges, we then had them do some research on how these local challenges are seen globally in other places, how they might have addressed those challenges. And then they presented on a few different ideas from around the world of how things were addressed in other places. And so, and then our culminating experience was to write a blog post. And so blogging is completely new. And that was one of my learning experiences, is I didn't realize that even the format and that type of writing would be so new. So, so we started with, well, I started by assigning it and then realized quickly, with the help of Va, letting me know that they have no idea how to do this. So then I kind of backtracked and made sure I modeled it much more. But it was just a really amazing experience. So we're in the process right now of doing some final editing on those blog posts. And then we're going to share that outward so that people can start to see. As I said, we want to co-create that new knowledge. So we want to make sure that people are seeing and that this learning is really visible.
It's fantastic. And I just want to highlight a little bit of that journey, because this is the whole reason why we established UARD, is to provide an academic qualification that can be tailored for specific contexts and nations and cultures and circumstances. And for you to have a dream and to write it down, and then to travel and connect with people and to create an institute, and then take this opportunity from UARD to provide a group of people who are passionate about their profession an international standard Bachelor of Education or Bachelor of Science in Education. I think your dream, you're doing exactly what the vision of UARD is. But I don't think that people who are from developing nations really get just how challenging it can be to be, if, for example, in Cambodia, to engage with a lesson. So for me, it's easy. I just turn on my phone or I turn on Zoom and I can engage with people any time of the day, usually with no problem. But you told me about some of the challenges that your students in Cambodia are facing, some specific examples that I'd just love for you to share, if that's okay, so we can have some light bulb moments from us in developed nations about how committed Va and his countrymen and women really are.
So actually, Teacher Va might want to share where, when you are at home, the place that he has to go in order to get the best signal. Do you want to share where that is, Va? Because you can hear your sister's pigs quite clearly from that location.
Yeah, that was the first day of our starting class. So it was about that when I was in my hometown. So it really a little bit difficult to hear, especially because we learned online, but I still committed to learn and to, because I know this is the one international program, so I really happy and really enjoy it, even though sometimes I have more work from school to do, but I still keep this as a prioritized one. So I really
And where did you go to get the best signal?
To get the best signal, I have to go to the, we call it the pig or pigeon.
Yeah,
Some,
the pig pen. Yeah.
yeah,
So
some,
he's in the
yes,
midst of the pigs
yes.
in order to get the best signal, but even that doesn't stop him from learning. And then we have others that, during our learning experiences, there's flooding. And so some of them have been on top of tables with their phones up in the air just to continue their learning. And so, sometimes we take that for granted. It's very common within our lessons that people lose their signal and they, lose the connection, and, we go to a breakout room and we have to try to bring everybody back in. But so we record each of our lessons. And then honestly, having the program assistant who can, follow up with students and really help explain things if things were missed, that has been just amazing. So I'm really grateful for the wonderful contribution that Va has been making to this program, and just the amazing commitment of the students in this program. It really is, it's amazing to me. One of them told me she was going to be late for class because she was riding her motorbike and had a small accident. And so she got back on her motorbike and drove home and still was able to attend class. And so, just the obstacles, the everyday obstacles, I think for them, it doesn't necessarily seem like, this is kind of just everyday life, but for people from a Western view, the things that are overcome every single day just in to allow them to attend class is pretty amazing.
And so programs like this, where you're delivering into Cambodia, and someone like Va is incredibly important in a local sense. Understand that you've built a really great team around you in the States who's supporting you as faculty members. Why don't you tell us about that process of communicating what you were doing and how you gathered this team together?
Yes, so it's been really interesting. It's one of those things where when you put an idea out, it seems that, you just kind of attract the people that you need. And so I kind of started just talking about this idea with my professor friends and people that I have worked with over the years. And so that's kind of where it began. And then I was interviewed for an alumni article from my university. And so from there, people started to kind of email and call me and say, this sounds like something I'd really like to be a part of. So we've gathered a team in that way. And it's an international team. So right now in our lifelong learning course, it's being co-facilitated by a counselor who is from the Netherlands. And she does a lot of work in Cambodia. She actually has a business in Cambodia, an organization in Cambodia to promote mental health. And she will be moving to Cambodia apparently in a couple of months. So I think this idea of when you have something and you put out that idea and then people are, attracted by your excitement. And I think a lot of people want to help and they don't always know how. And so what we've really tried to create are different pathways so that people can help. So for example, you can be a course contributor. So if you're somebody who has your doctorate or you have a really high level of expertise in a particular area, then they can contribute to the course by being a co-facilitator or even helping to develop a course. And that's been wonderful. But some people might not be at that, wanting to contribute in that way. Maybe they are a native English speaker or a very strong English speaker, and they want to be an English language mentor. So we've had a number of volunteers in that way, where we've been able to, for example, the blogs that I've been talking about, they're taking those right now and doing some editing and doing some coaching with the students to make sure that they're nice and polished before we publish. And so there's lots of different ways that people can support and help. And I'm just really so grateful that I have been surrounded by people who see that vision and want to jump in and want to assist however they can.
I would imagine there are quite a few people who would see this, like your alumni from the newsletter where you had the article, who want to make a contribution, and they don't know how. But this is a great opportunity, actually, for them to do that. So you've mentioned some ways that people are helping you now. Are they the only ways that people could help? So if there's someone watching this, or someone from your alumni that wants to contribute, is it only in those ways, or do you have other things coming up where you might have some support needs?
Yeah, so we do have plenty of other things because, of course, when you start a project, you realize that there's the next project and the next project. And so right now in our lifelong learning course, I've actually brought that dream coaching piece into this course. And so I'm modeling it with these students so that they can someday go back and model that with their students. But in the meantime, it's all about helping them, first of all, learn how to dream, because many people have kind of limited themselves and they're focused on daily survival, not necessarily on what is possible. And so we start with that. And then we take those dreams and try to make them into goals by saying, what would it take to get there? Well, what would you need to know? Well, what would be the next step? And so this whole process that we're going through in this course, what we're finding is that some of our students have big dreams. And so one way that people could help is by volunteering to be mentors. So we have English language mentors who are doing some of that work, editing and coaching in that way. But if you are someone who is in a professional field that might match some of our student interests, that would be really very helpful. We have 2 nurses who aspire to be professors of nursing. We have a number of students who really want to have a future in research. And so all of these are areas where we could definitely use people's help. We're always looking for course contributors though, because as we kind of are continuing to develop the program, I'm always looking for other thought partners because we want to make this the very best it can be. We are also launching a podcast. So coming
Wow.
up for our next course. Yes, so that's big. And it's going to be a bilingual podcast, Khmer and English. So the teachers that have, or the students that have an interest in improving their English speaking will be working on the English part. And anyone else who just wants to contribute the content can do the Khmer part. And our goal is to make this really accessible because as professional learning. So one of the things that we learned when we were looking at the Ministry of Education Youth Sports goals is that there is a focus and a need for professional learning. And so what are some really simple things that we could do and share as we are learning in our course that would really make a difference in rural Cambodia, for example, where they might not have access to ongoing professional learning. And so that's the goal of this podcast, is to share just kind of bite-sized pieces of pedagogy that they might turn around and put into practice the next day. And so I'm excited that it's a bilingual podcast because we'll be able to reach that Cambodian audience, but then also a global audience. And I hope that the students that are in this course will start to see themselves as authorities, as the creators of new knowledge, because as we are learning and they're applying it, they really are the experts. So being able to see themselves in that light, I think, is really important.
That's fantastic. People don't have to wait until they do their PhD to make a contribution to knowledge. And the graduates from our Masters of Education program in Nepal, from their dissertation, we've started taking pieces of that and publishing it online and putting it on research databases. And I love what you said about them becoming an expert. So this is the real motivation that I gave our master's students is you're probably the only one in Nepal who's done a dissertation on this particular area of relevance for Nepal based on international research that's really current. You are the expert. And I love that you're doing that right now at undergraduate level with these amazing educators like VAR, developing their expertise and their knowledge so that they can not only improve themselves, but they can contribute to their peers and to their profession there in Cambodia. That's really inspiring, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the idea of the podcast, and it actually came about in a conversation with students. So as we talked about blogging, and then we were talking about other ways that we share information. And so this is something that is, it's just organically coming from the conversations and from the learning that we're doing together. So I am really excited about it. I think that our goal will be to launch within the next couple of months, so that I'm thinking by first of the year, we should have the podcast up and running and really have kind of a backlog of episodes ready to go so that we can really start sharing that knowledge.
So if there's people watching this right now and you are from the profession of education, or maybe you have some expertise with podcasts and promotion of podcasts, or maybe you do professional development for educators or leaders or managers, then what's the best way for those people, Jen, to reach out to you and communicate with you?
Best thing to do is email me. So I am at jennifer@uard.ac.nz.
Fantastic. Well, look, Va, really want to thank you for your time and for what you're doing and supporting the program. I think you're amazing to be able to do a master's program in your own country and also be involved in this program with Professor Jennifer and supporting your fellow students as well. I think that's really incredible. So well done, and thank you for being with us. Professor Jennifer, thank you for making your dream come alive, and all this, everything that's happening is really sitting with you. Without you, it wouldn't happen. So I just want to say well done to you as well for your commitment to your dream and putting your hours and energy and time and creativity and your commitment into making this happen for people in Cambodia. You're amazing.
Well, I want to say thank you to you, because you are one of those people that, as we put the idea out into the world, you kind of just came into my life with this idea. So it all came together at the right time. And so again, the students are amazing. I could not do this without the program assistant, without Teacher Va. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who is supporting us, because this is really a crowdsourced initiative. This is an opportunity that we just really wanted to be able to offer this opportunity to Cambodians who may not have the chance to get a bachelor's degree in another way. That's how it began. And our long-term goal, though, is that we really think we have a great program. And so we hope that we can expand this so that people from all over the world are going to want to come to this program in order to improve their knowledge and learn from this experience. So I'm just really excited and just so grateful. So thank you.
Wonderful. So what I will do underneath this video on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Facebook, I'm going to put the link to Professor Jennifer's LinkedIn profile, and you can connect with her directly there. And if you'd like to make a contribution in some way and join Va and join Jennifer on the journey, then you can connect with her and inquire and pursue that. And if you have the idea, the dream of launching something like this, but you don't know how, here's how. Reach out to us and we can help you make your dream come alive. So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Va, for being with us and sharing your experiences. And I look forward to having you back again in about a year's time so we can hear about what's happened in the interim. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us on our UARD videocast.